Welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Show. Whether you are a seasoned investor or building a new real estate business, this is the show for you. Whitney Sewell talks to top experts in the business. Our goal is to help you master real estate syndication. And now your host, Whitney Sewell.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today our guest is Damion Lupo. Thanks for being on the show again, Damion.
Hey man, it's good to be back. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm honored. I always enjoy our conversations. And it was great to see you at the Best Ever Conference, and which I'm not sure what kind of conferences we'll be going to in the future, but I was glad we got that one in before all this happened. But always a pleasure to have you on the show. I know we're going to have a different topic today, which a lot of people need to be aware of that we're going to discuss, and I'm looking forward to it. But a little about Damion. You should look back at some previous episodes. We've covered lots of topics. He's an expert in EQRP and numerous things that you need to be aware of when you're investing personally and helping your investors invest. But Damion rebuilt his wealth since the first financial crisis of 2008 and can offer advice from the trenches, what to do, what to expect, and how to dig out. Damion has been a professional investor for more than 20 years, starting with the purchase of his first rental house he charged on his visa. That move snowballed into 150 rental houses in less than 5 years. In 2008, he lost the whole $20 million business, only to bounce back and recreate his wealth in less than 5 years. And we've talked about that, I think, on the first show probably that we recorded, Damion. So I would encourage the listeners to go back and listen to that amazing story. But again, grateful to have you on the show. I know you recently moved, but share with us maybe where you're located and a little about what you're focused on right now.
Well, I moved to the mountains, to nature, and it's interesting because with this whole Corona thing, because last time we spoke and had an interview, it was like pre-Corona, and so this is post-Corona, and they're wrapping the interviews around it, and there's a lot of interest in places that are maybe outside of the urban environment. So, and things have shifted. Like literally now people are questioning whether or not student housing is going to be as solid as they thought, because maybe students are coming back, maybe it's all going virtual. So all the rules have changed, and one of the things we decided to do was start pursuing things that are really recession proof. And I've been a big fan of gold for a long time and mini storage, because you know what? I've spent more money on mini storage. If I had just bought a mini storage, I would have literally broken even at this point with all the money I've spent on it. So thinking about what's coming, what's going to last, I think we have to really reassess and not anchor down into the past. We have to learn from the past, but the rules are all changing. So And there are some rules we're going to talk about specifically that have changed in the last 6 weeks that are really going to get people excited, like really excited.
Nice. Yeah. Rules that are changing we need to be aware of. Let's just jump in. I know that there's thousands of people that can now invest that couldn't invest in real estate before, but now have the option. I hope we get into that, but let's get into those rules.
So basically what Congress did is they said, okay, we need to pump a whole bunch of money called $3 trillion in about 3 weeks. That's what they said. And so whether you love it or hate it, the money is flowing. And one of the places it's flowing is out of retirement accounts. So people have had 401ks and IRAs, and the money's basically been stuck. Mostly it's been stuck in Wall Street. And so what Congress did is they said, okay, we know you need money. And so we're going to let you take up to $100,000 out of your retirement accounts, any type of retirement accounts, and just either keep it, and then you can pay taxes over a few years, or you can roll it over into another account, and you have up to 3 years to roll it over. So if you wanted to, you can literally take $100,000 out of your, say, thrift savings plan if you're a federal employee, or your 401k, or your 457 if you're a firefighter. You've got all these different options. You can literally pull the $100,000 out and then self-direct it next week. So this opened up a whole world for people that previously we've talked to thousands of people that wanted to do real estate investing. They trust real estate more than they trust Wall Street, but they're stuck. I mean, you've got as a federal employee, you're basically given these options, and that none of those include going and buying apartment buildings with your retirement. And that just changed. And that was just one of the deals. That was a wave to self-direct. That was the first 100,000. And the second 100,000 was the ability to borrow up to 100,000 out of 401ks or EQRPs. So, and then you can pay that back over 6 years, no payments in 2020. So it really gave everybody a chance to say, okay, you know what? I want to actually control some of my money. I think it's more of an unintended consequence of the government that all of a sudden people are going to have a whole lot of money that they can potentially pull out. So I'm pretty excited about it. I don't know if they did it on purpose or not, but that's definitely cool.
I think it's pretty neat that, and I just think, personally, we need to know this because now we may have money sitting somewhere that we couldn't use before, but now we can invest it in real estate, have more options. But also, depending on if you're raising money for deals, you need to understand, like, maybe your niche that you've been focusing on just got a lot bigger, or there's more people available now that you didn't think about before. Maybe you have that common interest with that federal employee or firefighter or whoever that now you can connect with, and you can educate them about ways they can invest that they couldn't before.
Well, that's the big thing in a syndication space. A lot of people that we want to help, that want to be a part of our deals, they weren't able to until March 27th, and then everything changed. In fact, if you've got people that said, "I'd love to do a deal, but I'm not retiring from the FAA or the government until 2030," you can say, "Hey, you can literally start investing with me next week," and it really changed the rules in the game. I mean, I want you guys to really hear this, that billions and billions of dollars just opened up. In fact, probably trillions of dollars just opened up so that you can help other people, and your deals will never run out of money. I mean, there's so much money that people were just stuck with. They really want to do something different, Whitney, but they were always told, no, wait until you retire. Now you don't have to wait, but it's a limited thing. It's only this year. So you got to do something now and educate people sooner than later.
So it's only this year. So they have to make the investment, say, before December 31st.
They have to pull the money out and roll it over into a self-directed plan. If you wait until after December 31st, you're not going to be able to pull that $100,000 out. And so it's $100,000 or up to all of your money, whichever is less. So you pull it out and it goes to you personally, and then you roll it into an EQRP. And now you can do real estate, physical gold, things that were not on the table. They were not part of the G fund or the growth fund or the S&P fund or, all these Wall Street paper products.
Okay, that's good to know. I didn't realize that so they have to pull it out, they have to convert it, and then they could sit on it then if they didn't make an investment until March or June of next year.
Yeah, and so some people say, well, is there a downside? And my reaction, just really biased, because I think we're all biased. I'm willing to say I'm very biased. Is that I trust having the cash either in my bank account or in gold while I'm waiting for an investment more than I do having it sitting on some Wall Street balance sheet. And so if you're not doing anything, great. At least you're in control of it. We are in very weird, rocky, volatile times. Market goes up. Today, it's up 800 points. Tomorrow, maybe down 600 or 1,200 points. So getting out of that whole rocky roller coaster, I think, is a very big upside. If you're sitting on your cash, the last 10 or 11 years, we've had this bull market, and that's interesting, but it was very artificial. So it may be artificial going forward. I just tend to think it's better to have things you can control and that are not just, this hopium that we smoke and that's the plan. Like, I don't buy into that strategy.
I had a TSP for a number of years, and I mean, you hit the nail on the head, just the lack of control. It's like, I would love to put it in real estate.
And this opened that up. I think there's, a lot of people, unfortunately, and they're obviously, if you're listening to this, you're not one of them. They're just going along hoping that one day they'll wake up and they'll be, they'll exit their job and they'll have a big pile of money and everything will be good. But that is, abdicating responsibility is it's not a plan. It's not a plan for having any type of security or stillness. Like I've had people, Whitney, that came to me and said, look, we need help. We're 55. We've got a couple $1 million, and they were scared to death because they hadn't actually done anything. It had just been sitting in the stock market. And they were like, okay, well, it's sort of accidentally happened over 30 years. We don't have another 30 years, so we can't lose it. And they, instead of being slow and methodical and spending time listening to your show and going and devouring great resources, they just went and lost the money. It took them 2 years, lost the money. So now is the time to grow ourselves. Truly, that is the best investment. And here's one of the cool things. You pull that money out, the disbursement or the loan, you could invest in things like education, mentoring, masterminds. So you've got a lot of options because that is the best investment you'll ever make. It's better than any real estate, any gold, anything. It's truly you are the best investment.
Elaborate on that a little bit, how we can pull that money out to invest in education or something like that, mentorship.
So once the money comes out, once you get the disbursement, it goes into your personal account. And basically the way this works is if you have a hardship, meaning if you've been impacted by coronavirus and the Treasury and the Congress left it very vague, if you've had any impact, well, find me somebody in the United States that has not had an impact with coronavirus. There's something. Once the money's in your account, you have one of two options. One, you have to put it into a retirement account within 3 years, either the old one or a new one, or you have to pay taxes over the next 3 years. So let's say you pulled 100,000 out and you said, okay, I'm going to invest $20,000, $30,000 in masterminds, in mentors, in people that are balder and grayer than me. I always think that's a good idea. And so to do that, it just means that you're going to pay taxes, or you're going to have to make up that money to return into a retirement account within 3 years. I guarantee you, if you have great people around you, you spend $20,000, $30,000 on investing in yourself, you're going to have that come back 10 times in the next 3 years. So if you're thinking, what am I going to invest in? And you're not really sure yet, invest in the person, invest in the team. And that will guarantee you're going to do better than you would by yourself 100% of the time.
Love that. So anything else that we could be prepared for as far as educating that person? And, a little more, if we're having that, let's say I'm the firefighter and, I'm listening to the show today. Now, all of a sudden, I'm back at the station tomorrow. What are a couple things that, maybe even high level, that I need to know that I say, when I'm trying to tell people that you now have this option?
So what you're going to want to do is go to your administrator. Usually they're tied to the HR department. And you're going to say, I'd like to see what kind of options we have for a hardship withdrawal from coronavirus, from COVID-19. It's called a disbursement. That's the actual word. And also, if it's a 401k or 457, if there's been a change to the loan rules. And the loan rules were before that you could have up to a 50,000 or 50% of your money pulled out as a loan. That's now 100,000 or 100%, whichever is lower. So it's up to the administrator. Now, the Thrift Savings Plan, the TSP, has already announced it. It's on their website that it's available. And it's up to other 401ks and 457 plans. They can choose whether or not to do it. So you just have to go to them and ask them, have you guys amended the plan with a disbursement option for COVID for up to 100,000, and or have you changed the loan rules so we have up to 100,000 we can borrow? And then they'll tell you. And if you want somebody to three-way call and navigate that with you, reach out to us, because we're happy to help you get the education and figure out what your options are. A lot of times it's hard because we call somebody and we don't even know what we're talking about. And we're like, well, hey, do you have access, or do I have access, or is there access to money somewhere? You sound like an idiot, and I don't want anybody to sound like an idiot. So you're asking disbursement and loan options. Are they available? Has the plan been amended? And again, totally happy to help people navigate that to see if they do have the options.
Yeah, it's hard to have that conversation if you don't have any idea what you're asking about, right? And then the person on the other end doesn't want to feel like they don't know what's going on. So they're like, no, we don't have that. And you're like, don't know what to even ask next. So that's a great option. Appreciate you offering that. Anybody else that we haven't discussed? Like I know you said, like potentially firefighters or federal employees that have a TSP. Anybody else that might be in our wheelhouse we haven't thought of?
Yeah, anybody with an IRA. So if you have an IRA of any sort, you're able to pull up to $100,000 out of that and move it into something else. And one of the things that people miss out a lot is they want to do real estate investments and they're stuck. They have a Roth IRA, for example, which is really stuck. But you can always pull Roth money if you've contributed it. You can always pull that out tax-free, penalty-free anytime. What the disbursement did was two things. It said no penalty, no 10% penalty for early withdrawal if you're less than 59 and a half, and you can pull up to $100,000 out if you've been affected. So before, if you actually were even able to pull out money like $10,000 for a hardship, it was only a 10% penalty that you didn't have to pay. So it wasn't really that significant. There's a lot of options. One of the things that I've noticed is there are a lot of companies that, like these do-it-yourself or app companies for real estate, or not real estate, but retirement things. And you're just left, basically doing an app, and then you have to Google everything, and Google is confusing. So it's like anything with real estate or financial planning. You want a team that has an alignment with your best interests and can help you navigate. There's too much information. Google will tell you anything you want it to tell you. It doesn't matter if it's the truth or not, because somebody has written a blog with the wrong information, and the algorithm will give you whatever you're asking for in the wrong format. So having the right people around you to help navigate this thing, all the different strategies with retirement. Because Whitney, here's the deal. You can pay no taxes. You can get tax breaks putting money into retirement accounts. You can pull it out tax-free, penalty-free. You can spend it tax-free. I mean, there are all these different ways to do this. And yet, how would you know unless you have a team? So what's the goal? Find the right team and then enjoy your life without paying 70% of your money to taxes.
You mentioned the Roth IRA. Is that for traditional as well?
No, it's only Roth IRAs or Roth EQRPs, Roth 401ks. It's the Roth piece. And so one of the things that we can do is we can convert traditional, like you mentioned your TSP. Mm-hmm. You could convert that to Roth once you have self-direction. Once you have an EQRP, you can convert from traditional to Roth. And once it's Roth, you can pull all that money out. You can do it anytime you want, tax-free, penalty-free. So it's a really interesting thing. Now, when you convert it, there are ways to convert it tax-free. So just think about this. You put the money in there pre-tax, you haven't paid tax, then you convert it to after tax, which is Roth, you're not paying tax, and then you pull it out tax-free. That's a pretty good system of not paying taxes, and it's completely part of the system. So why not use the rules that are there? I mean, there are incentives to get us to keep stimulating the economy. So they're available.
When am I going to have to pay taxes on that?
So you can actually do this and not pay taxes at all. So because of all the different laws that have happened in the last couple of years, this happened with the Joint Tax Relief Act back 2 years ago when bonus depreciation came to life. You were able to take bonus depreciation and offset some of these conversions. It used to be a certain amount, up to $500,000. Now it's an unlimited amount because of what Congress has done in the last 6 months. So this is where you need strategists. You need people that can put it all on the table. And this is high level stuff. This is not your H&R Block tax preparer on the corner. I promise that is not the person that knows about this stuff. It's people that wake up at 3:00 in the morning reading the code. People like me that have read the entire CARES Act and they're like, okay, well, we can dissect what you can use here. And then, I mean, that's a great question. When do you pay taxes? How about never? I mean, is never a good choice? Because I think it's the best choice ever, and it's available if you actually use it.
How do we know we have somebody that can help us navigate that? Obviously, it's, it sounds like too good to be true, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to want somebody that's definitely knows this stuff. Like you said, that wakes up at 3:00 in the morning. I'm waking up at 3:00 in the morning thinking about all this other stuff I'm doing, but it's not about taxes.
No, it's a good question, because quite frankly, most people, tax strategists, tax attorneys, accountants, most people, CPA doesn't mean that they know anything about these strategies. It means that they can file your taxes and they've got credentials because they've done a lot of high-level bookkeeping, maybe not even high-level. So the reality is you have to scour. And what I always tell people is if you're looking for the best person, go find the richest person you know and ask them who they use for everything. I mean, and then see if there's a continuity between lots of successful, wealthy people. And if they're using the same firm, like we love Provision because they're super high level. And what happens is, like with Provision, for example, they're strategists, they're world-class. And so let's say you pay $20,000 and people go, I can do my stuff for $2,000. And I say, okay, if you pay 20 and they save you 100, what was the return? And so right. It's a different way of thinking. It's like, well, do you want to give your money to the government or do you want to keep it and pay a little bit for people that are going to help you navigate? So I think it's a choice.
What is Provision exactly?
Provision Wealth is a tax strategy firm. So you're probably familiar with Tom Wheelwright and the Rich Dad Advisors. And so Tom Wheelwright, he was connected to this firm. And so they're in Arizona and they do a lot of really high level tax strategy. They're amazing. That's our firm. A lot of people that are in real estate syndications will use them. We've got 3 different firms that we love because the people at these firms are actually involved in syndications. They understand it. They're dealing with people that have tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. And so whether you have tens or hundreds, or you just have, $500,000 or whatever your number is, the same people are helping you with your strategy. So why wouldn't you want to have the same strategy as the centimillionaires? I mean, ask, what's his name? Richard Wilson, the guy that wrote the book. I mean, you want the best people on your team.
For sure. Wow. So what else do we need to know or to be prepared for this, discussing this CARES, or the new provision?
Well, a couple of things, and I glanced over the payments. So if you have any loans outstanding, you do not have to make any more payments in 2020. And if you take out a loan as part of one of those 2 options with a new loan, then no payments for a year. And if you have any required minimum distributions, RMDs, then you don't have to do those in 2020. So the government took pressure off all these different places. They want to have money staying in your hands, not going to the government. They don't want to force things. So no RMDs, no payments. If you already have a loan for say like $40,000, you could take out another $60,000. So you can add on in additional. So you got a lot of options. And if you're trying to figure out, oh my gosh, how do I remember all this stuff? All you have to remember is how to contact me and my team. I mean, having people, I just want to hammer this. You don't need to know everything. I see people coming in and I've heard podcasters sometimes and I listen to them and I go, wait, you interviewed me, but then you went off and you just decided that you were going to be the expert. And I'm thinking, why would you do that? You've got a team. And then when you mess up, you look like a buffoon. So Whitney, you're great. You let me mess up. If I'm going to make the mistake, hey, I'm the expert in this space, and you bring great people that know what they're doing because they obsess about it and that's all they do. So that's the key. It's getting the people that can come in and diagnose and dissect your entire situation and then use it to your, to your advantage.
For sure. It's all about having the right team members. It's like playing basketball. It's not a one-man team, right?
Well, unless you're Michael Jordan, but then there's there's the
okay.
backups.
There's an exception. Yeah, and I'm not Michael Jordan.
No, me neither.
So, Damion, what's a way you've recently improved your business that we could apply to ours?
World-class people. I just hired, which is really fun in this time to be able to hire people.
Mm-hmm.
And hiring people. I heard somebody give me some advice, and it was probably on a really great podcast, and I wish I could give it credit, but it was basically this point, and I've had a hard time with this for a long time, where I was concerned because I tend to be pretty good about things. Like I can get anything done, but there's no leverage, and you can't really build anything big. And so the recommendation was go find something that you do constantly, like every day, and go find somebody and hire them and teach them. And if it takes you 30 times, like you've got to spend 5 minutes with them 30 days in a row, and normally it would only take you 5 minutes to do this thing, do that, because then after 30 days, you're done. You don't ever have to do it again. And your return on your time it's like thousands of %. And yet you have to get over that hurdle of saying, okay, I'm going to invest. I'm going to talk about the same thing for 30 dang days, because it can make you crazy. And what I realized is doing that investment, it's one more thing that's off my plate, and it is unbelievable. And you empower people to become part of a team, and then they become even better than you, which is the cool part.
Love that. And I think you have to think too, the most likely your first hire is not going to be somebody that's going to stay with you forever. Like you just got to get past that, they're not going to be that assistant that just stays with you forever. Most likely they could be, but
it's a huge point. I remember being struggling, hiring somebody, getting excited, getting nervous, and then they lasted 6 weeks, and it was, and that's part of the process. I think you have to have the fortitude to be able to be willing to go through that. And what happens is it might not be the first or second person, and then somebody does stick with you, and then they start teaching other people, and it's magic. I mean, teams are truly magical if you're willing to see bigger than beyond yourself.
For sure. It's interesting. You brought up Richard Wilson. I was in a mastermind he was speaking at, and he talked about it took him like 6 assistants before he found the one he has now. She's amazing. He said, but I had to fire all the rest before I got there.
Well, it's funny because there's a program called Culture Index that it's a great filter for people to figure out who they are and what they're all about and their drivers. A lot of things out there, whether it's Myers-Briggs or these different things. This is the best one I've ever found. And it's mathematical. Like you literally can, when you're profiling people and figuring out who you're going to filter out of your, hiring process. I remember when I had my entire team years ago, and everybody did this index, and the guy that was helping me figure out what this meant looked at everybody, told me about everybody, never met him, but he told me, and I was like, wow, you're really good. And I said, well, what do I do? And he said, you fire every one of them. And I went, wait, are you serious? And within less than a year, 100% of the team was gone, and it had restarted. So it was really powerful to understand the right people, like Jim Collins talks about, the right people on the bus. If you have the wrong people, it's not going to be fixed until you kick them off the bus. I mean, truly, you can't fix the wrong tendencies. Like it's like our values. You can't just program somebody's values. Either they're there or they're not, and our tendencies. So really important to know that stuff going in versus, it feels good. They seem like a nice person. Your instincts came from your gut. And you know what gut stands for, Whitney? Gave up thinking. So I just recommend making sure you've got some type of filter. My favorite is Culture Index.
Culture Index. How long does that take to take?
10, 12 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's fast. And I mean, it's when we've had hundreds, sometimes even thousands of people coming in looking for a position, what it does is it gives us a number of matching them towards the actual profile of what the work is, what the job is, what the personality traits are. And then you can say, okay, we want people that are at an 85% or higher likelihood. And at least it saves so much time too. And you don't want the wrong person because it's not going to make them happy either.
Right.
They're working, but then they hate their job. And then guess what? They're going to leave.
And while we're on that, where are you finding, hundreds of employees or hundreds of applicants, I should say? So
what we've done is I had, I love this. I love when being in sales, and if you're not learning how to sell, you're in trouble. I mean, truly, I think that's an important skill set that's not really taught. I had a gal on LinkedIn reach out to me, and her approach was outstanding. And she was a recruiter. And I said, it's funny, I actually am looking for a couple of people right now. And I was a little nervous because I hadn't done it before. And so she went off, and I just watched her shine, bringing all these people. And she spent all this time. And I thought, you are worth your weight in gold. And so it wasn't even me. I was just smart, dumb enough to say yes to somebody that impressed me. And I just said, okay, I'll give you a shot. And it was worth it. I think a lot of people try to cheap out. With a recruiter, you're going to pay 25% or more of somebody's salary to have them go deliver. And I can tell you it is worth every dollar.
Interesting. Okay. That's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. I've never used a recruiter, but maybe I should consider it in the future.
Here's the thing, it's like any other thing. I'm not good at it. I'm not good at recruiting. If you're a world-class recruiter, by all means, go recruit your people, maybe. But I suck at it. I'm terrible. So I want somebody that's really good. And Chelsea is world-class. I mean, she is unbelievable. It didn't matter what I threw at her in terms of what I was looking for. She went out and found the best. And people that were still working, that she's hunting them. And I'm going, wow, like, I don't even know how you do this, but this is her superpower.
Very nice. Does she have a business, or is she just helping you now?
She does, and I can definitely hook you up with it, and you can share it with people if you want, and give you a link to her. It's her firm, and
okay.
she's a killer out there.
Yeah, happy to put that in the show notes or promote her as well. That's awesome. A great service, it sounds like. So, number one thing that's contributed to your success?
The willingness to not be attached to my flubs and my stubs, and being willing to try things and spend money on things. Even though we can try things, I think a lot of times we get concerned about spending money. And the truth is, money comes and goes. And the more you're willing to do it, the more you get serious about learning the lessons. And so spending money, whether it's on, coaches or a marketing thing or doing a podcast or whatever, spending actual money will help you grow faster, because you will screw things up. And you go, okay, well, I screwed it up. I don't want to keep spending the $5,000 I did on that once. What did I learn? You learn faster than if you just read something in a book. It won't stick as hard if it's just a book.
How do you like to give back?
I spend a lot of time with people on their stuff outside of maybe the EQRP or things that I'm selling. And to me, that's what matters, because people are not just a sales target. We have lives, we have struggles, we have concerns, and finding ways to map people out so they have clarity. When you have clarity, there's a sense of calm, and clarity leads to power. And so a lot of us are just kind of wandering aimlessly, hoping it all works out. And so the way that I give back is spending time with people and giving them a map. And then it's up to them if they're going to do something with it, because I can't do something for somebody. I can help them see what they know inside and ask some good questions. And so I spend a lot of time doing that.
Nice. Well, and one question I forgot to ask you before I asked you that one was, what's your best source of meeting new investors right now?
Best source of new investors. What is the best source of new investors? Going out and commenting in social, because like right now, hardly anybody's actually going out to live events. I think going out there and commenting and just being a part of conversations, asking questions, and then contributing, bringing something to the table. And it's amazing if you're actually engaged, asking questions and then moving people together, you become somebody that people pay attention to. And then when you do something, people are going to say, oh, I want to know more. I want to be connected with you, because people don't invest in necessarily projects. They invest in people that are running projects. So you've got to have a voice. You've got to have some type of avatar out there. So it's not going to happen on its own. Like what we're doing right now, you've got an avatar. People pay attention to you and they like you. I like you. And that happens with purpose, not accidentally. So being a part of conversations and being authentic. I can tell you it is not very common to be authentic. Everybody's got like a facade. They're trying to bamboozle people, and not everyone, but it's pretty common. And when you show up authentically and truly, it's like when we killed this deal we were working on last year, had been working on it for almost 2 years. And I shared with everybody why I killed it. It cost me a couple $100,000 to kill that deal that I had spent. And just being really authentic about it, unbelievable feedback, so much support. So being real with people, imagine that.
Love that answer, Damion. No doubt about it. And that's, like you said, a lot of people are putting on a facade. But getting on social media. But tell people how they can get in touch with you and learn more about you. And if they're looking for help, in figuring some of this tax stuff out, and if they qualify, how do they get in touch with you?
The best thing to do is to text the word EQRP to 72,000. And what'll happen is you're going to get a report that's going to give you some ideas about the EQRP. You'll also have a direct access link to me and the team. So once you get that, you text EQRP to 72,000, you'll get this report. And then if you have a follow-up question, or you say, okay, I want to do something, you can just send a message to that number and it'll literally show up. And so we'll be able to help you whatever way you need help. But this gets the ball rolling and it connects you to us. So I definitely recommend just text it. I mean, your phone is probably attached to you within 3 inches. Like that's kind of how everybody is. So just text the word EQRP to 72,000 and that'll get you connected.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Syndication Show, brought to you by LifeBridge Capital. LifeBridge Capital works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate, while also donating 50% of its profits to assist parents who are committing to adoption. LifeBridge Capital, making a difference, one investor and one child at a time. Connect online at www.lifebridgecapital.com for free material and videos to further your success.